haven't seen Sarah Jane on the last 2 weeks. I wonder if she's okay.
Wasn't she here last week?
I don't think so.
Hmm. Well, hello, Blue Shooters. Max and Max's Models here, and if I've mashed the right buttons, we should be live. You guys, I'm just going to turn the volume up here. And
I haven't seen Sarah Jane on the last 2 weeks.
Okay, yeah, looks like we are live. Can you guys hear us okay?
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Okay. Let me just turn the volume up on this thing and see if I can hear us okay. Can you guys hear us okay?
Feels like I feel my tooth is being drilled by the music.
Okay.
Well, crowd says,
Okay.
Sluggo says, crowd, I'm really on an elevator.
All right. All right. They're picking us up. Okay, they can hear us. I'm very sophisticated, given all I had all that trouble getting the Zoom audio to pipe in. So we're on Zoom, but the audio is literally just going through my microphone, which I have down by the speaker so they can hear you better. Kind of screwed up our interview with Scott or Kid McKillop, because the sound was so faint. So hopefully I can get him back for take two. 37 minutes in the Godzilla pool. Sorry, since you mentioned it, I said it. 2 minutes in. Anywho. Well, guys, we're off and running. And I want to welcome everybody thanks for coming out and spending a little time with us. Hope you have a good time here on the Max's Models live stream, co-hosted by none other than Ken and Steve. Now, but you can call them whatever you want to call them. And we have a couple of things to talk about, including scratch building. But before we get going, somebody had made a comment just a little earlier in the thing about being in Japan. Ken, if you want to finish eating, you can just turn your camera off and finish eating. Ken's still eating, so.
You're not going to share. We don't want to watch.
And I don't want to hear you masticating in the background. So anyway, well, that didn't take long. So anyway, somebody's talked about, the small hobby shops in Japan. They're only 7 stories tall. And it immediately derailed my train of thought because it brings up an interesting point, Steve, and you're actually the guy to carry the ball on this one. As we all know, you go to a hobby shop, most model builders are our age, 40 plus. And maybe it's the same way in Europe and Asia. But it seems like in Europe and Asia, a lot more young people are still in the model building hobby. Am I wrong on that, or?
No, that's true.
So
that's true.
I'm kind of wondering what's causing that. I have my brain is cogitating a theory, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Well, in Japan, it's a different reason than in Europe. In Japan, or in Asia to begin with, if you've ever been to anybody's house, by comparison to the homes that we live in, they're incredibly small.
Okay.
So being able to do hobbies is sort of prevalent because it doesn't take up a lot of room.
All right, I can see that. I can actually,
now,
okay.
In Europe, the hobby stores, I don't know how many of the troopers have gone on YouTube and looked at some of the people who do hobby store tours in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
The hobby stores, while they're not as gigantic as they are in Japan, but they don't have as much radio control and those types of things in Europe. They have tons of die-cast. And a lot of plastic model kits.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A lot of that has to do with half the year can't do anything outside.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons so many Canadians are great model builders is because they're stuck inside for half the year also. In fact, they've even told me as much.
Well, they're trying to build cars and planes to get out of the country, but,
Somebody still has their volume turned up because it's feeding back into the microphone on their speaker.
Oh. One of the best hobby shops we ever saw was in Anchorage, Alaska.
It was, and that place was unique because it was right there at an international hub. Anchorage is where a lot of stuff comes into the U.S. So we were seeing like Russian kits. And by the way, we're talking about, what was that, Ken? 07, 09, something like that. We're talking 15 plus years ago. So.
Well, the funniest hobby store I've ever been in was in Cologne, in Germany. And I was over there for a trade show, and I happened to ask a local policeman where there was a hobby store, and he understood English, and he directed me. And I go down the street and around the corner to where he told me this would be, and there's this store, and it's got a red painted front. And I'm looking at the store, and I'm going, this doesn't look like a hobby store. And I go into the store, and it's an, how should I put this? It's an adult
hobby store.
Yeah, an adult hobby store that you had to walk through to get to the hobby store.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, this is why kids don't build models in Germany. Because their parents.
I don't know.
like,
It would have gotten my
okay.
attention as a kid.
I was like, okay,
The
thing about Japan, like, I don't remember who brought up the thing about going to the stores in Japan, but A, there's a lot of them. And
yeah.
B, they're pretty big. And when you go in there, they have ridiculous amounts of inventory. I mean, it is like, you're like,
Tell
it's
them
like
about that
Costco.
hole in the wall you went into. I forget, it was Hong Kong?
I went into, I remember being in Hong Kong, and one of the guys that I worked with said, I'm going to take you to this hobby
Craig
store.
Swain says, Johnny, have you ever been to a Turkish hobby store?
There you go. And one of the guys, and he said, I'm going to take you to this hobby store. And I'm like, okay. And we go.
I know you thought they were going to take you down that alley and steal your kidneys.
Yeah, I mean, we go in an alley, and then we go up a flight of stairs into this building, and there's this hobby store. And now this is like in the 80s, and it's loaded with Revell, Monogram, and Aurora stuff from like the 60s. And I'm like, he goes, I like to come here because the collectors haven't found this one yet. I was like, holy crap. And they had tons of stuff.
Yeah, those days are kind of gone now.
They're way gone.
Every once in a while, half the time you see them on eBay, and it cracks me up. Okay, kind of a cousin to what you just mentioned. You know that some model collector has moved on, and that his family is dumping the collection online, have no clue what it's worth. When you see this great collection on eBay and they go, $100 for the whole thing, you're like, and of course the bids just start skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And stuff you don't need or want, you just see the deal, and
But I will say this: the hobby stores that I've been to in Asia and in Europe, they're much better stocked than the quote unquote average hobby store here.
Yes. But they've got the customer base for it.
They do.
Now,
I mean, the hobby's still strong, in Asia and in Europe.
well, I just cogitated a theory and this is coming out of Max's brain, so this is from whole cloth. I have no idea if I'm right, but I want everybody to chime in on this. I think maybe one reason that the hobbies are so big over there is, and guys, before I say this, if you're not in the USA, I'm not being pejorative in any way or trying to act superior or anything like that. So this is just an analytical observation. In the United States, it is so much easier and usually cheaper to get a decent sports car, get it tagged, even learn to fly or buy an airplane. Not that these are cheap things, but compared to what it costs in a lot of other countries, we have lots of wide open roads and relatively free open airspace. We can do a lot of these things in the real world, where a lot of Europeans and Asians are in countries where they know they're never going to own a Maserati or be able to buy an airplane. So models are their way of having part of that world. Does that make any sense? That, we have a lot of people here who would build models if they didn't have a real sports car, didn't have a real airplane or boat or whatever. Ken.
Well, Frank just popped up a comment, and he said the best hobby store he'd ever been in was Polk's in Manhattan.
But that was at the
Now
height of the industry.
that's at the height of the industry, and they were the gold standard of hobby stores. Uh, I mean, I sold them. I used to shop there as a boy. I knew the Polk brothers, but their store was the unicorn of all hobby stores in the New York metro area.
Okay,
I mean,
Nathan Bond disagrees with me. We have lots of cheap entertainment, television, social media, other games that can't compete. That is absolutely true, but they have those same things in the other country. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just pointing out that they have all the social media and stuff in the other countries too. Yet Max in the U.S. we have more disposable income. That's probably true. Yeah. You know, if a serious sociologist, I mean, someone who really knew what they were doing, assuming being a sociologist and knowing you're doing can go together, was to look into this problem. Someone had no vested interest, didn't come from the industry, didn't care about it, just did a pure analytical study. It'd be interesting to see what the results are. But it could be that Asians are simply more creative by nature. And I know that sounds some kind of ist because everything does these days. But I'm just wondering if maybe it's just kind of endemic in the DNA. They have more of an artisan gene than a lot of people in this country do. Of course, also that's another thing. It just dawned on me, which may or may not have any relevance on this. I kind of think everything touches everything at some point. And wow, that sounded so much better in my head. Every hobby or human activity in some way affects another one, even they seem unrelated. And I'm just thinking maybe it could be that the United States has one of the most everything societies. We've got, we've got somebody from everywhere here. What's the word? I guess the melting pot. You go to Japan, it's mostly Japanese. You go to China, it's mostly Chinese. You go to Germany, it's mostly Germans. Blah blah blah, that kind of thing. England, mostly. Wow, Brian said, yeah. But whereas the U.S. we have this giant melting pot, we got a little bit of everybody, and it could be that there are certain groups that are just more prone to the artisanship of model building than others. And
well, see, also in the Orient, you have hobby departments inside department stores, which is a thing that has kind of gone away here in the United States.
Yes.
The proliferation of where you can get the stuff there is much broader than it is in the U.S.
Read the comment about Aberrant Ideas. It's interesting. I'm still kicking myself for passing on the opportunity to acquire the life collection of a World War II vet who had recently, sadly, lost his wife and was estranged from the rest of his family. I know exactly what you mean. And that's one of the reasons that when Eric offered me that United Airline pilot hat, I accepted it. I never flew for United. I've ridden on the airline a few times. I have no connection to them, but I just knew it was a piece of history I didn't want to let go. I've had people send me stuff from veterans, usually old hats or memorabilia, and I always say yes to it because I just want to give the stuff a home. I don't want it to end up in the trash. While we're speaking of that, Steve, why don't you remind us what your son said happens when you go to the great beyond to all your models?
Oh, he said, when you're dead, this is all going on eBay.
At least he had the good sense to put it on eBay. I'm actually considering, and I'm not joking here, I'm actually considering giving away a bunch of the models that I've already built just to make room for ones that I want to build. I have a 12 by 30 TARDIS 2. I've got 5 cabinets, and they're full. And a bunch of stuff stacked up in here. So, but while we're Viking funeral, heretic. Although, better than the trash bin, I suppose. I'll tell you, I just had a really bad idea, as you know, Steve. That's kind of my jam.
That's your thing.
I think if it gets to the point that I've got to get rid of a bunch of these models, it's time to whip out a couple of video cameras, some pyrotechnics, some a radio controlled Godzilla, and just make that movie I've always wanted to make.
Make the movie.
Well, Ken, turn your volume back on, Ken.
It was on.
Oh, okay. Now I hear you. So, are you done masticating?
If you mean by done eating,
Yes.
yes.
I assume you chewed.
You know, it's funny. Ambert Ideas talks, and he says, I felt odd about possibly taking advantage of someone who is in emotional distress.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
I remember years ago when I lived in another state, and I was very friendly with the guys who owned the hobby store and spent a lot of time there. And they were big into Lionel and restoring it and selling it. And some kid came in and he said, would you be interested in purchasing some stuff? My grandfather passed away. We found a trunk up in the attic. And he said, sure, bring it in. And they brought it in and opened the trunk, and there must have been 10, 12 very desirable Lionel engines. And they weren't in bad shape. I mean, they needed a little, lubricating, that was okay. And so he said, well, how much do you want for it? And the kid said, well, could you give me $100 for it? Now, there must have been
1,000 plus.
It must have been $5,000 worth of engines in this trunk. And he says, well, they're kind of worn and this and that. And all right, he said, I'll give you $100. So he gives the kid $100. The kid walks out. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, you criminal. I said, you know what this stuff was worth. I said, and just for that, I said, I'm taking this one. Goes, go ahead, didn't matter. The poor kid comes in, and he comes in with 2 ZW transformers, which they're worth a lot of money. And he says, oh, we had those too. And I turned around and I said to him, give him another $50. I said, you can't take this from him.
It's funny you should mention that. Just before I got everything set up here, Dan Monroe dropped another video. This was on the Bride of Frankenstein.
I saw it.
Yeah. So he was talking about the guy was selling some of the stuff, and the guy who bought it said, no, you're going to take more money than you're asking. You're not asking enough. Now, that is, by itself, one of the reasons I respect Phil Separano. I may have talked about this before. And Phil, I hope you don't mind me talking about it if you happen to tune in. But Phil got that second guy, Aurora Godzilla. I feel okay. The first Godzilla doesn't count because it was triggered, so it's 18 minutes in. I know most of you know this. I'm going to cover it real quick for just in case those who don't. The famous Godzilla model, which Aurora sold millions of, and actually had to set up a second press and everything. They made a second mold. Blah, 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 blah. Pete can tell the difference between them, too. So anyway, they decided to make a second one, and they made the pattern, which you can, when you see a lot of the promo photos of a model that hasn't gone out yet, what it is the pattern the molds are cut from, which is usually made of a hardwood. Back in those days, hand carved and everything. And it would be glued together with rubber glue that could be peeled apart when they were done to make the molds. And they would have a professional paint it up, and those would be the photos. If you look at the Mr. Spock with the 3-headed snake, when you see the phaser fire, the photographs of the buildup were actually the pattern that had been built up and painted because they hadn't made the molds yet. Anyway, so they made the pattern for a second Godzilla. That's where he's tearing apart Tokyo Tower. And it never went into production. They never cut a mold for it. But they had the pattern all built up in the vault, which the vault was where Aurora kept all their patterns and things like that. It was, okay, you got the picture. So Phil managed to track down, when Aurora sold off all their molds and shut down operations, all the execs and senior people and people who've been there a long time told them, look, if you want to go in the vault and pick out a keepsake, go ahead. This guy picked the second Godzilla pattern, which never went into production. And he moved out to California, where he still lives today, and Phil tracked him down and asked him how much he wanted for it. And if I remember correctly, he asked for a couple of grand, and Phil point blank told him that's not enough, and doubled the amount that he asked for, which is truly what it was probably worth, which is one of many reasons that I have a lot of respect for Phil. Which, by the way, I got to get out there and meet him someday and see his collection in person. Guys, Phil finally put his collection out on a couple of YouTube videos. Look at Phil Separano, spelled with a C. I imagine if you're watching this, you've probably already seen it. He's got a lot of original stuff, including boxes that never went into production, like the Batcopter, and all kinds of stuff. It is. If I ever can do what Andy wanted to do and make an actual museum of kit models, it's going to be like the Peterson Museum versus it's like, Phil, you got to donate your stuff. This guy added a level underneath his garage to store this stuff, and
no, he built the garage to put the stuff in the rooms under it.
Okay,
he didn't have it; he built it.
I have nothing but for my money. Phil can do no wrong. I have nothing but respect for him for doing that, and he was a career plumber, right?
Yeah,
and admittedly, a plumber in New Jersey could probably do better than a doctor.
New York.
New York, even more expensive.
And he's a nice guy, Phil, and he knows the hobby. I mean, he tracks his stuff down. He's got so many store displays. I mean, it's amazing. He's got a network of guys that he works with that they find all these store displays, and he buys them and puts them in his collection.
And I'm glad that somebody's doing that, because otherwise, Steve, I hate to say this, and I hope I'm not bumming everybody out because you come here to have a good time, but I'm concerned that we're only a generation away from a lot of this stuff just disappearing to the winds of history.
Which is why you need a museum.
Yes.
Because it's going to.
Well, you need to call your old buddy Leno and arrange for that.
Yeah, make a room. Well, they took the model car kit museum, which was in Salt Lake, which I was fortunate enough to get admission to because it wasn't like open to the public, and Jim arranged that because Jim was part of it. Yeah, and they moved it. They moved it to the American Museum of Speed in Oklahoma, and it's they're making
at least
it
it's in a quote unquote real museum.
Yeah, and they're making like an addition to the museum to put everything that was in there and additional things in there to showcase model car kits.
That makes me wonder. I feel I'm starting to feel guilty. I haven't been to the Garlitz Museum yet, and it's just an hour and a half down the road. So I need to put that on the only way I'll get off my butt and do something is if I have it like on my calendar, today you will do this. I have got to put that on my calendar and get down there. And
where is it? Where is it?
Steve, you want to handle that one?
What?
Where is
the Garlitz Museum? It's in Ocala.
Oh, it's not very far away.
Hey, okay, Ken, hold on. I'm on the phone here with my calendar. I know you're still working, so you have a day job.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
You guys are seeing this in real time. This is not something we plan. I'm totally bushwhacking Ken here. Okay, next weekend I'm gone. Oh, wait a minute. It's probably only open during the week, though. Is it open on the weekend?
No, it's open on the weekend. I'm not sure which days, but it is open on the weekend.
The 27th or 28th, Ken, you and I need to go there. And I can give you those models I've got for you also.
That's next weekend.
No. The next weekend's Oh, I'm sorry. No. Next weekend I'm going to... By the way, guys, sadly, no live stream next weekend. I'm going to be out of town. What's today's date? The 20th? Wow, I really need to be... Yeah, today's the 20th. 27th. So, I'm supposed to go to JD Hobbies on October... maybe the 4th or the 5th of October.
Okay, the
If not-
Garlitz Museum is open 7 days a week from 9 to 5.
Okay, we're gonna have to do it on a weekend because Ken has a job. One of us is still actually a productive member of society.
I don't know about that, but
Who's that?
You.
yeah, exactly.
By that, Ken, I mean you're still forfeiting money to the federal government so they don't send men with guns to take away your stuff. But, oh my gosh, did I let my, attitude on taxes slip? Sorry, no politics here.
No, none here.
Okay, we'll work that out later. You
Yeah, we'll
and
work
I
that
are
later.
going to the Garlic Museum. And the nice thing is Steve's going to buy a plane ticket and fly down and join us.
Cool. All right, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you volunteer somebody. Hey, if you can't take advantage of your friends, what's the point in letting them keep breathing? Or they remember the Ferengi first rule of acquisition: exploitation begins at home. Said, and any father that ever made his kid mow the lawn knows exactly what I'm talking about. How much are you going to pay me? I don't know, 21 meals a week and a place to sleep?
Yeah, how's that?
Did you even have a
Right.
lawn? You grew up in Manhattan. I guess you didn't have a lawn, did you? Were you in
Right,
a
so-
house or did you grow up in an
No.
apartment?
We had concrete.
You had concrete. The concrete
We used to-
jungle.
We used to go to Central Park if we wanted to see grass.
We used to go to a
Brian
back
says-
alley and, oh, wait a minute, a different kind of grass.
Let me slide this one in real quick.
Yeah.
Brian says Ken has a boat. He has to keep working.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody once called me a slave to the paycheck, and I was like, well, you're not wrong. You are a slave to the boat.
Happy. It's a symbiotic relationship.
I'm trying to read what Nathan Bond wrote here. There just aren't enough interest, and and you couldn't make enough revenue for it to be self-sustaining. So it would have to be something where the government would have to sponsor it. Maybe.
Or somebody who really
Oh,
likes
Fran!
it.
I just you talking to Fran? Was Fran here? Oh, hey, Fran. We got Trey and Fran and Kudakilla and Bill Campbell and Garfield Orange Tabby, and we got all the gang here tonight. We're doing all right. You know what? I'm glad we can all get together because that's what this is. It's a 2-hour bull session.
Pretty much.
Well, I've got some stuff we'll get to in a second when we're done with whatever we're making up as we go along. Because the whole idea behind being here is for you guys to have some fun, say what's on your mind. The only rule is, be nice, no politics. Okay, technically 2 rules. But, so, you know what? While we're talking about that, Fran went to 12 o'clock high today, an RC meet. And I guess I can do it. I think I downloaded those pictures.
Bob Altus says, hi, Max, Steve, Ken, and Gloop Troopers. Greetings from Taiwan.
Taiwan, all right. One of my favorite YouTube channels that I watch as soon as it pops up, and most of you guys probably watch it, it's Habitual Line Crosser. You guys have both seen it, right? HLC?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I love,
Okay. And then somehow that's going to tie into Taiwan.
Yes, because he always calls China West Taiwan.
Hi, Rob. Love you long time.
Find out. Oh, I didn't just say that. I don't know nothing about that. I saw that in the movie. Anyway, yeah, somebody's flying 747 freighters, but God, yeah. Okay, so anyway, here we go.
Tonight's topic is off topic.
Finally, somebody broke the code. So Fran went out to, I believe it's called 12 o'clock high, which is a big RC meet. And, okay, here we go. Hold on. Let me roll this up here. Okay, okay. Now, these are pictures from the 12 o'clock high that Trey dropped. Sadly, that C-47 crashed. It cratered. You're going to see those pictures in just a moment. But I love going to RC meets. Ken and I went to a jet meet in Flagler one time, and it was really impressive to watch. Personally, I could never rest easy knowing that I've got $10,000 circling the airfield. But
That's a cheap one.
yeah, really, that's one of those prefab jobs.
Yeah.
Some of these things are made from scratch, and we're going to be talking about scratch building a little bit later if we get back on topic at some point. That P40 wheels are a little small, but that ain't no big deal.
You can get Jet RC kits for $20,000-$30,000.
Oh yeah, because God,
Yeah, because you didn't want to get a Honda.
yeah.
Get a Honda Jet. There you go.
Okay, man, Ken, you almost sent me off another tangent, but I caught myself. That's
Why?
a Ken landing? No, that's a Max landing. Although Ken did assist in my single greatest splatter of all time.
Oh yeah, blame that on me because
Yeah, flying upside down, what could go wrong? But I don't know if that's a Jenny or a standard, but the yellow biplane, it's a Sesco plane actually. But
wow, look at the detail in that cockpit.
it is amazing. I have seen some of these airplanes, some idiots actually, well, they're not idiots, they're geniuses, but they're like mad geniuses, that put working instruments in the cockpit. What for?
Who's going to see him? Who's going to see it? The birds?
They do it for one reason only. Steve, they do it for one reason, and one reason only, and you and I both know what it is. Because they can.
Keeps the pilot informed.
It's their way of saying, look, I'm better than you.
I remember seeing a video on TV 30 years ago where the cockpit controls inside of like a 182 worked.
Yep. Trey says it was a Jenny and JN4. Okay. There's a Weedle Williams, and it's not Waddell Williams. It's Weedle Williams.
I don't know what your price range is, Paul, but there's some relatively inexpensive RC you can get into.
Oh, you can get an apprentice and all the stuff you need by these $400 if you buy yourself a decent charger and a spare battery. You can get an apprentice and get the RC flying real easy. That's how Ken got me addicted, you frickin' dealer.
That was fun.
And we had a great time with that plane.
I still have your airplanes if you ever want them back.
I won't say I'll never get back into RCs, but right now I have so much stuff on my plate. And what I would like to do with those ducted fans is make an Aurora instead of an ME262. But one thing I've learned is, I'm sorry guys, I know this is a horrible thing but then again I did fly the Airbus. But you can't have too many safeties and training wheels and stuff. Look, these airplanes are often tricky to fly at full scale. One thing people don't realize, when you make a very scale RC, I mean, you make, I want it to look just like the original. Good. You just inherited all the quirks of the original at 1/50th scale or 1/10th scale. So now it's going to be even squirrelier to fly.
And moves even faster.
Yeah. And then there's, even if you have cat-like reflexes, there's going to be a lag between you seeing what's happening, you inputting the correction, and that being transmitted to the airplane and the servos moving and making that correction.
That's why they have built-in stabilization.
Which is a great thing. I know, old school hardcore guys never had any of that stuff. They also didn't have good medicine, and they did open heart surgery with a chainsaw. So, you know.
Well, also they modified the wings of those squirrely airplanes to make them more docile to fly. So they
Come on, guys. I came up with a great one-liner. I said they did open heart surgery with a chainsaw. Not a single chuckle. Come on, that was good. But
nobody's listening.
You never listen.
What?
Touche. Now that was good. But anyway, so Trey, thanks for sending me all those pictures. I hope you had a good time. I hope you didn't get sunburn. And But the thing I thought we would talk about today was scratch building. And Bill Campbell sent me these pictures. This is the Hydra car that someone scratch built at, I believe it was at Torcon. And I got to tell you, I am genuinely impressed. Oops, sorry, that was me. Okay, I have this black screen that I put behind the photo so you don't have our elbows moving. Anyway, obviously, I'm sure most of you guys know this is from Captain America, the First Avenger. But this thing is 1/112 scale, and it's scratch built. And what I really want to talk about tonight is scratch building. And I've got a few pictures I'll put up that I stole from the internet. Borrowed. How do you even scratch build complex curves like fenders and then keep them symmetrical?
Lots of patience.
Well, that's a given. Steve?
A lot of drugs?
That's what you use afterwards.
The patience of a saint?
Given. I mean...
Boy, this thing is really... that engine is
Torcan, not Torcon. Sorry, Bill. Pardon my American accent. Okay, Torcan. This is up in Canada. And the gentleman who made this, salute. And also, by the way, guys, I want to thank Bill for sending me all these pictures. He sends me a lot of stuff that we use here frequently. So does Paul Adams down in New Zealand and a whole bunch of other people.
Bill says it was 3D resin printed.
Oh, that's almost like cheating. Oh, you ruined the magic. But that's okay. No, okay. It was 3D printed. All right. I get it. You know, Steve, that just popped a thought into my head, which is, as you know, always a dangerous thing. You've often wondered if 3D printing is going to replace kit models. And given the aggravations I'm having building that Piaggio and that Navajo, not anytime soon would be my answer. Except that
those weren't the best kits.
No, but still there were stuff that wasn't available, so points for that, props for that. But this brings up an interesting point though. Yeah, 3D printing's not going to replace styrene kit models anytime soon. But for kit bashing and scratch building, it just opened Pandora's box. What say you?
Well, Bill says he still had to design it all and make the files.
Good point.
Okay.
The crowd says, nice build. 3D is cheating? No. You know, Max, how much work goes into this creating these
I
cars?
have to say that it's okay.
Look, the machines will get better, the materials will get better, and the prices will come down.
Our replicator Mark 1s are crude by Starfleet standards, but they are opening up doors. Now, first off, since you bring up the 3D printing, and that's how you did this. Okay, great. I get that. That's probably why you didn't get first place, is the judges probably had the attitude that, well, it's 3D printed, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Admittedly, 3D printing is definitely going to be easier than heating up and bending styrene symmetrically to make the fenders and all the other complex curves. But, and there's always a but, okay, that does not in any way make it easy. In fact, I dare say if I was going to 3D print something for the small, I'd 3D print something I could vacuum form over. Because, believe it or not, vac is easier to work with. I would 3D print the plug. But 3D printing, as I am learning working as Bugatti and a few other 3D things that we're doing, it still requires a ton of work. It gives you the basic piece, but that's all it does. And unlike a styrene model, you're not just trimming off flash. You got to trim off a whole bunch of stuff. Some of them, Ken, I don't know what you printed those models in, but they are really hard to sand.
Just regular PLA.
Okay, well, anyway, 3D printing brings up its own set of bugaboos. It's true. 3D printing would be easier than saying making every one of these components out of plastic stock, which honestly I don't even think you could do. So 3D printing is making stuff possible that wouldn't even be possible otherwise. And I understand how, I truly understand how traditional model builders could see it as a cheat. But all you're really doing is making a part, which is much harder to deal with, that simply isn't made by a manufacturer. I'll guarantee you, if they made the 112 kit of this car, like if Tamiya decided to make a 112 kit of this car, or Hasegawa, it would be a hell of a lot easier than what this guy had to go through with 3D printing.
I mean, you still got to put it together. You still got to paint it.
Oh, before you do that, you got to clip everything off, sand it down, and get it smooth, and then cover it with something that'll cover up. Because you notice how smooth these fenders are. Yeah. No 3D printing, not even resin, comes out that smooth. Which means you either have to fill it in with something to sand down, or you got to sand down the surface texture. So to get something that shiny and that was a lot of work, and my hat's off to whoever did this for their commitment and their skills. So no, 3D printing is not cheating. Not in my humble opinion.
I was at a show and a guy had a 1/6 scale Chevrolet Camaro Pro Stock car. And I'm like, nobody makes this. And I found out who the guy was, and he 3D printed this and built it and painted it. This thing was unbelievable. The amount of work that went into it was phenomenal. And then he showed me he had a car under the table in a Tupperware container that he was working on, of a 67 Pro Street with a ladder frame, and he 3D printed the whole thing and I'm like, this is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
The detail was phenomenal. The scale was great. When he finished the first car, the paint job was amazing. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was better than a lot of plastic kits I've seen.
Well, Rob Altus talks about automotive sandals primer, and I do know that some people use real automotive product on some of their models. And that's fine. I mean, it actually works. But there's still a ton of work involved. Now, I have seen these 3D printed engines and everything that some of these companies make, and they're unbelievable. So I guess there's a 3D printed medium out there that can get rid of some of that surface texture. But still, that doesn't make it easy. It's just another way of making parts.
I mean, I bought a 3D printed engine for a Pro Stock kit that I'm building. I couldn't believe the stuff that came out of the box. The level of detail was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Fran points out that Guess has probably got hybrid parts harvested from other kits, and it probably does. Gotta admit, that and the one from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Those are two of the coolest Hollywood cars. It's just a shame they were all CGI, because I tell you what, I'll be honest, between you and the Fence Post and the internet, since I'm saying this on a live stream, I really like that car. I think if they ever make a TV show about or something, that car it could be a star in a movie on its own. It is awesome.
The one from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you've seen, it's in Desertland.
I thought that was a repro.
I've seen it. You're right. I've seen it, Steve.
Yeah, but isn't that a reproduction? That's not the
Not
actual.
really.
Is that the cam? Is that the car? Is that the screen used car?
Yeah, that's the one they used in the movie.
Hmm. Well, that and this one together I would love to see them side by side in some sort of alternate history movie or whatever, Anyway, so, but I'm
the Time Machine too.
But anyway, so the Hydra car, pretty cool, and
really nice. That's a whole nother level.
It really is. And I'm surprised he didn't place better than he did. Although I think the winner was an Embraer 190. That was
Mhm.
magnificent. And airliners are hard to do. People look at airliners, oh, those are easy. No, actually, to make an airliner look authentic and everything is very difficult. Because unlike military equipment, you can't hide anything with battle damage. They got to be pretty flawless. And
See, I think in model kit contests there should be a separate category for 3D printed kits.
you know what? I agree, and that probably will come in the future.
Mhm.
They'll probably say if more than X number of percentage of parts are 3D printed, it goes in. I agree, and maybe it should. That wouldn't be a bad idea. Now it would certainly expand the hobby to other people. Now,
Yeah.
speaking of exactly what you just said, boy, that thought just slipped away. Um, I had a great point to make, and now it is back in the ether. By the way,
Take another drink.
I'm down to drinking iced tea now. I had my 2 shots. So, contrary to what some people think, I do actually place a limit on myself. Let me just get the
Have you ever reached that limit?
last
Max?
little bit out of the shot glass. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, the aroma matters. Don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Everybody's thinking it. I'm not even going to bother to say it.
Okay.
So, by the way, and a completely unrelated subject that we were talking about earlier. Oh, I remember what I was going to tell you guys. Speaking of that Embraer 190, which I think was an Air Canada model. You guys, I can say it now. You guys all knew I was a captain at JetBlue. I spent 18 years on the Embraer 190. I stayed on that airplane longer than I had to keep my relative seniority higher. And they moved into Boston. I'm not commuting to Boston, so I finally, my last couple of years, I went on the Airbus. First as an FO to learn the airplane. God, I am so glad I did that. And then about 18 months as a captain. Well,
That wasn't your choice.
Huh?
Switching to the Airbus wasn't your choice.
Well, I could have followed the 190 up to Boston, but I didn't want to do that. But speaking of that very thing, Ken, I just saw the other day that JetBlue retired its last Embraer 190.
Yeah, I told you about that.
Oh, you're the one that told me. Okay. So anyway, so I was out ahead of the curve for once. And I tell you what, when I started getting those Airbus captain paychecks, I was like, maybe I should have done this 10 years ago. But
you had your reasons for not doing it.
no, I had quality of life. If I'd have been a reserve guy, without boring you guys with the details, it was changes within the company that made it practical to do. But oh man, as a retiree, I'm having to adjust to the fact that okay, you're no longer putting money in; you have to actually start taking it out, and you're kind of like, what? Do what?
How does that work? How does that work?
Take money out of my what? But it'll get smaller. Yeah, I'm still having a little cognitive dissonance over that one. You guys probably haven't noticed it, but when I go to the hobby shop, I am not leaving with bags full of stuff anymore. I'm like, I need that and nothing else. I don't like that. But
If you got enough in there, it'll just keep on growing. Then you won't have to worry about it.
I know, Ken, but then the race begins. What I want versus what I gotta, but if I spend this much, it'll do that. So, okay, you know what? I think it'll fly economy. Oh, by the way, Ken, you'll appreciate this.
What's that?
Just on a lark, because I always want to take a long train trip just as a kick and giggle. I thought, pull a Sheldon Cooper there. I thought, hey, I'm going to try and make it over to Lou's JD Hobbies 25th year anniversary on October 6th. And if you guys in the LA area, talk to Lou over JD Hobbies about that. But what if I took the train? That'd be an interesting. Oh, no, don't say it, Ken. Don't say it.
What?
The train to LA from Jacksonville goes through Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
89 hours.
No,
3.5 days. To which my response was, And a sleeper car was, because I wasn't going to do that in a coach seat.
No.
And I was like, no bueno.
Nope.
Sorry.
Nope.
Not going to happen. So, anyway, Ken did.
Not while you're in retirement.
I wouldn't do that anyway. I want to take a railroad trip, but I don't want to go to Chicago to get to LA from Florida. I didn't realize there is no southern east-west route on Amtrak. None.
Not since
You want a great train ride?
Mm-hmm.
Fly to Calgary, go to Banff. Take the Rocky Mountaineer from Banff to Vancouver.
That I would like to do. Because I've been to Calgary a couple of times, and I hadn't gotten up to Banff, but I have gotten up to Calgary, and I'm like, this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. So,
Wait till you
anywho,
get up to Banff.
well, maybe I could get a job at Walmart and expand my horizons. But talking about scratch building, though, I was looking at scratch building techniques, and there's surprisingly little on the internet about it. But one thing I did find was this page, and there's a couple of different places, the Motor Museum Miniatures, but there were a couple other places that I wanted to make sure, because I borrowed this from the interweb, so to make sure I give them credit. But this is showing how they scratch build styrene models, and it involves a lot of techniques, including heat deforming the plastic and everything else. They're making plugs, doing all kinds of stuff, and I was both shocked, amazed, and impressed, and terrified by the work they go through to make relatively slab-sided vehicles, never mind the stuff with complex curves. And scratch building, some guys are doing it like it's wood. They're taking blocks of styrene and carving it out. And there's a couple of videos that I found on YouTube that show how these guys do this. It is not a process to be taken lightly. And
It's not for the faint of heart.
no. And I am thoroughly impressed by what these people have been able to do.
Did you ever watch on YouTube the model car muse?
Oh yeah, he pisses me off.
Now,
He makes all these complex procedures look so easy.
Yep. He's a good friend of Jim's, and they have a guy who name is Randy. I think I can't remember his last name. He made a Corvette that raced at Daytona in '76, and he started out with, I think it's a 1/6 or 1/8 scale body. The whole rest of the car is scratch built. This guy went to France, because that's where the car ultimately wound up, twice to take pictures and measurements. And when I saw this car, the real car wasn't as detailed as his model. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And this video is up. I mean, he won the award at the NNL for having, this thing was amazing.
I should hope so.
I was dumbfounded when I looked at this. I said, I would be embarrassed to even put a kit I have on the table with this thing.
Frank Field says Max could be the greeter at Hurricane Hobbies.
There you go.
I don't know. People might leave.
Meanwhile, but the problem is, no matter what he paid you, you'd still have to give him money at the end of the week.
Well, at least they can afford more stuff.
Well, the other...
Yeah, Rob's right. Randy Dare. That's the guy's name who made this Corvette kit. It's unbelievable.
Well, I tell you what, another way to make models was this. Hold on, sorry. There we go. These guys actually put the pictures on the side of wood blocks and carve them out. That makes some pretty impressive models. You guys carry on. I'll be back in a second. I'm out of cough medicine. Thought I had enough, but I didn't.
Next time, bring the bottle.
Not allowed anymore. Don't ask me why. I'm not allowed to say.
Okay. Well, that's interesting how they drew the kit, the car on the block of wood, made it easier to carve it out. This looks like
that with when I was in the Boy Scouts, when we used to do carvings things for the neckerchiefs we used to have to wear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could carve out things that would hold your neckerchief together, and they did that on the sides of the block of wood, so you could just makes it a lot easier to carve it out. Axe is gaining altitude. Max, switch to edibles. Yeah. Ever since Katrina took those tracks out, there's no Southern Amtrak anymore.
No, and their equipment isn't exactly. It's not what you'd want to spend a long time in.
They're getting new stuff now.
Oh, let's hope.
Yeah, they're getting new stuff. What crowd said.
What crowd
I've
said?
never 3D printed, but I've done a little research on this, and the quality of the part depends on the resolution of the printer or how expensive a printer it is. That is true.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. If you want to print really small parts, you need to do the resin printing, which is a rather involved process, because it's not just printing the thing. Then you got to wash it, and then you got to cure it, and then you got to trim all the support material off of it. And the printers aren't very big, so the parts that you print have to be pretty small.
I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, so, whoa! Glad I got the camera blacked out. You guys didn't see that.
I was thinking about 3D printing some G-gauge model railroad cars. There's some
Because you have
files.
room for those in your house.
I only set those up a few times a year. When my grandson comes over, we can play with those together.
Grandkids. A perfect excuse for granddad to act like he's 3 again.
Absolutely. He's getting to the good age too. He's 8, which is just the precipice of where you can get the
Well,
range.
you know, you guys are on an intellectual par or maturity par.
Yeah. What's your point?
No point. Just making an observation, stating the obvious.
You expecting something, Max?
What are you talking about?
Those gloves.
What? Well, oh yeah, I forgot you guys are watching me on Zoom.
Yeah, we can see what you're doing.
Yeah. My replica RAF Aviators gloves that are a size too small, and I love these friggin' things. I used to use them. Ken maybe remember I used to use these when I rode a motorcycle over to his house.
You must not convict.
If the glove does
you know,
not fit, you cannot convict.
Not convict. We talk about how imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Ollie's today, and as I was perusing the aisle, they had a whole peg section filled with die-cast cars in 64 scale from Majorette.
Okay.
Yeah. Majorette has been in the die-cast business for years. They usually were of the lower end of the quality scale.
They were the Palmer Plastics of die-cast cars. Uh-huh.
So they've stepped their game up, and they have some pretty nice stuff. But what they did, which sort of kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Now, here's the car I bought, which is a Porsche.
You got to back it off a little bit. It's blanking out.
Oh, how about
Hold it
that?
by your face. Hold it by your face. There we go. Now we can see it. Okay.
Porsche 911 GT2.
That doesn't look
Okay,
too bad.
real nice car, nice wheels, opening doors. But what they've done is inside the blister, they put this.
Inside the blister.
Inside the blister. So inside the blister, the car is on top of it like this inside the blister.
Okay.
So they knocked off Matchbox by making a little box to put the car in when you take it out of the blister. Hey, might as well take it from somebody who was good at it.
Hey, like I tell people, only steal from the best.
That's right. If it works, do it.
Who was that famous criminal, the bank robber, that later years in life they asked him why he robbed banks? He says, because that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
And, oh, God, these things, oh, someone's always getting them on.
No, Steve doesn't have a green screen behind him. It's just the way the algorithm works.
Yeah,
Because
that's
that's
different than
behind
chroma
you.
key.
I
Chroma
got
key
black
eliminates a
and
color. The stuff that's on Zoom and everything, it calculates your face and everything. There's even a software package to calculate your eyes and mouth, which is which is on I think TikTok, which is probably how HLC does it. But I've done it once or twice, but I had to actually go in and edit out the eyes and mouth, so I had to hold very still. And but you'll notice sometimes one of his eyes will disappear because he moves a little bit. Of course, nobody cares. It's just everybody knows he does that in his living room, and it's a YouTube video. But
well, he's a pirate.
I love it. Yeah, he really is.
That's why his eye disappears. He's a pirate.
Arg. But by the way, I saw Atlantis is putting out. I just got their email just before I went live about the latest stuff they're putting out. Of course, they got the C-141 Starlifter on there, but they also have the 55 Chevy with the stuff. So glad to see the boys are at least expanding a little bit. What's the latest over there that you can talk about?
Well, now they have all the molds in one place, which they weren't before.
Mm-hmm.
So now all the molds are where the molding machines are, and they're on racks, and they're by category. So now it makes it much more easier to physically see what you have, so that when you decide what you're going to come out with, you can just select from the stuff that's in front of you and just take it into the next room, throw it in the machine, and start running the kits. And, get the package done and get the instructions done. So it's a lot easier now. So they'll be coming up with some more releases than they normally would do, because now it's organized.
The Kraut just posted Willie Horton, and I remember that name from the Dukakis ads. What's this? Did I miss something up the line here?
Does he mean Tim Horton?
I don't know. There must be something up here that I missed. I immediately caught the reference, which is probably a little scary.
Hey, Kraut, elaborate.
Yeah, what about Willie Horton, the guy that made sure that Bush won election? Yeah, that Starlifter kit's pretty basic, but it's fun, and I put a bunch of slugs in the nose to get it to sit. But it takes a lot of cleanup to get the wings and tail, because the typical, what I call the Aurora fit. Willie Sutton. There we go. It was Willie Sutton.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Willie Horton
different.
was the guy that got released and went out and committed another crime, another murder or something, and they used that
What a
against
shock.
the caucus, but Atlantis Media exact repop. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
Everything
Yes, it is,
Atlantis has is repops, the old stuff. They got all the old models. But
Yeah.
I love building Atlantis kits because, and please understand what I mean when I say this, I don't take them too seriously. In other words, you get a Tamiya or Hasegawa with 10,000 parts, and you feel obligated to make every one of them, paint them just a certain way, just do the very. You get an Atlantis kit which is repop an old Revell Aurora, and you feel I can build it like it was a kid, sand it down, put a basic paint job on it. Yeah, if you really want to go the extra mile, you can dress them up, but what's the point? That's not what they were intended for. The right tool for the right job. You want to make a super accurate kit, you get a Zuikimura or a Tamiya or a Hasegawa. You want to make a good, solid mid-level kit. You get an Airfix or a Monogram, Revell, and you want to make a nice, fun, basic build. You get yourself an Atlantis repop of anything. And so, well, that's my read on it anyway. I'm sure some of you guys probably have your own opinions on it. But that's one of the nice things. We have tiers of models. Not everybody's trying to be Ferrari. We got our Chevys and our Yugos. And
there's a price point for every category.
I've told the story before, but you know what? I'll tell it again. I remember a woman coming in to Hurricane Hobbies, and she was looking for a basic entry level model for her son, who was like 9 or 10 years old, and she was looking at the prices, and she was kind of like rolling around. And yep, those aren't for him. I found an Atlantis F100 Super Saver. I said, this is the kit he wants. It's not that many parts. It's a decent kit, but it's at his skill level. And she goes, well, you'll need some glue. And of course, Ian also recommended, he got her some sanding stuff, some sanding sticks, and a couple of odds and ends he would need. And she probably went out, spent $40, $45 on everything. But she also, but only 20 was on the kit. The rest of the stuff he'll use on any subsequent kits. So I don't consider that, it was a $45, $50 purchase, but $20 was for the kit. The rest he'll use on all the other stuff. And if he decides to keep model building. And I was thinking, that's the way to go. Now Airfix actually has these prefabricated beginner kits that have a lot of the paint and everything included. And I'd probably point him that way, or to an Atlantis kit.
Ronald McDonald says, how long have you guys been going? I just found you.
Well, I've been going since 1961. It's 8 o'clock. Ladies, do you know where your husband is? Well, my wife knows. She's probably watching me on the YouTube. And Yugos would be Starfix kits. I think that's an insult to Yugo.
Yeah.
I didn't have a Yugo. I had a early Hyundai. I bought it on a credit card. I bought 2 cars on credit cards. That and an old secondhand Oldsmobile, which, by the way, except for blowing a tire, which wasn't the car's fault, I bought this old, fully expecting all kinds of problems. It never gave me a lick of trouble. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like an 89 Cutlass or something. I honestly don't know. Okay. No, I'm not going to bore you guys with that crap. Let's keep talking about models.
Wait a minute. Frank Field says most of Amtrak's trackage is leased from the big freight roads.
Yeah.
Actually, Amtrak gets those free. That was part of the deal back in the 1970s, I think it was.
Yeah, but it's still considered a lease. They just don't pay for it.
They don't pay for it.
Yeah.
It's with the railroads. They said, okay, if we don't, because the federal government was saying, hey, you have to run passenger service. You have to provide this service. Mm-hmm. And then the railroads, they didn't want to do it because they were making no money off of it, and then they were losing lots of money. So they got together with Congress, and Congress said, okay, you don't have to run your own passenger service, but you have to let Amtrak have the rights on the track for free.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's right. But Ken, and you told me this, and then I experienced it. If you're on Amtrak, I didn't experience it. Anyway, if you take Amtrak, you may wind up on a siding because the freight gets priority.
That is true. Yep, that's sad but true.
Yeah.
I had
KSL and C. Yeah, that's basically it. And JM Schladik pointed out, Hyundai, hope you understand nothing's dependable and inexpensive. Well, let me bore the living crap out of you with a quick Hyundai story. I was a commuter airline first officer for Mesa Airlines in Presque Isle, Maine. And if you've never been to Presque Isle, Maine, it's right up on the Canadian frontier. And I used to sign off all my letters from the rim of the Canadian frontier.
Wonderful place.
I actually had a good time up there. The people were super nice. But I was up there. I'm a Florida boy. And I got assigned to there in February of...
the interesting part about that assignment was you were in Key West just before you got assigned.
No. I went to Key West from there.
Oh, okay.
My first assignment with Mesa, got hired in 97, went there in February 98. And I was only there a couple of months for basically the winter. I had never flown in ice or snow or terrain because I'm a Florida flatlander. I could deal with thunderstorms and everything, but it was an eye-opening experience. It was, and look, people can knock on Mesa Airlines all they want, and rightfully so. Mesa stands for making every spouse angry or merging every small airline. But by God, those people gave me a first class education in the real world of flying airplanes. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. I was just listening to Mentor Pilot talk about the ONA DC-9 that went down to fuel exhaustion in the ocean down near Puerto Rico. And I remember when that happened, I was like, just listening to him tell the story, my hackles, the hair on my arm, the back of my neck stood up. Like, dude, you're doing the wrong thing. Of course, I already knew the outcome. Anyway, point I'm getting at is Mesa gave me a great education, one that every professional pilot should have. And there were two things to do up there, drink and the other thing. And I didn't know anybody up there, so I just, the point I'm getting at is everybody was snowbound. I needed a car. It was only $5 for me to get a taxi to the airport, and $5 to get a ride. I'll use my captains usually give me a ride home because I live like 3 miles from the airport. But I figured, no, I need wheels. So I bought a Hyundai, and this is 1998, and I don't know what year the Hyundai was, a few years old. $1,600. I went to the car dealership, and everything worked on it. I gave it a check and a quick test drive. And I was like, can you take a credit card? He goes, sure. So I bought a car on a credit card, $1,610, I think. He tagged it and everything, and I drove off with it. I drove, my next assignment, as Ken pointed out, was Key West. From Presque Isle, Maine to Key West, Florida. For those who don't know American geography, that's basically from Canada to almost Cuba. And it took me 5 days to make the drive in my Hyundai, which had 260 air conditioning. That meant 2 windows down at 60 miles an hour. And that little puppy never let me down, although I did bend up a fender on it on a friend's basketball goal, but that's another story. So, overnighted in...
5 days to go down the East Coast? You must have really...
Did you drive in reverse?
Well, I wasn't in any big rush. I stopped in Boston and spent the night with my buddy Bill and his family. That's where I dinged up the car, backing out, cut the wheel, looking this way and went that way. Oh, dumbass. I went up, pulled it out, just looked at him at the window going, and I'm like, and off I went. $1,600 car, who cares? Anyway.
What was that? Do that again?
I went, and he was up in the upper window looking down at me going, and I'm sitting there going, and back in the car.
You didn't really have to do it again, Max.
But you asked me to.
Fix your hair. You look a little frazzled.
I was. But anyway, so the next night I went down to New York, from Boston to New York. It was the next drive. Stayed with somebody I knew, and then the next day I went, made it all the way down to New York. I think I went nonstop to Florida. No. I'm sorry. Boston to D.C. Spent the night with Greg and his family. Then day 3 drove all the way down to Jacksonville. Stopped there. Now, Jacksonville is where I had my Oldsmobile, which had an air conditioner. Because around South Carolina, the window came down. Yeah. Everything I own fit in that little car. Everything. Including my comforter. So, anyway, the day 3 I drive to Jacksonville. Took me 5 days to get down there. Maybe it only took 4. Maybe it only took 3. Anyway, Jacksonville, I swapped cars, visited my sister, packed everything in the air-conditioned car, and then drove down to Key West. And by the way, you can get from Jacksonville to Miami in about 5-ish hours, I would say. And from Miami to Key West takes about another 5 hours.
Yep.
Because it's all 30-mile-an-hour speed limits. Beware the key deer. They have this little animal.
Now, if you go on Sunday morning, it only takes about 3 hours.
But I was paranoid of speeding because everyone told me the Highway Patrol are out there, and they're where the key deer, the Keys in Florida have this hornless deer, an animal that, it's like the only place in the world they exist, so they're hyper protective of them. So I basically drove the speed limit the whole way and down through Isla Mirada and all those places, and it was a great experience. But thank God I had the air conditioner at that point.
KLS&C says, today Max would need a semi with a 53-foot trailer just for his model collection.
Probably. It reminds that
Yeah,
old
Travis
George
would
Carlin
fit that.
routine about stuff. People have so much stuff, so they buy bigger houses for all their stuff. And it's like, yep, I got stuff.
It's just you, your wife, and the cat in this 4-bedroom house.
It's a 3-bed. Well, I guess technically it's a 4-bed, but this office I'm in right now is the 4th bedroom. But
And a 6x12 shed outside.
Spirit and Air Force
What are you
One
saying,
had a
Ken?
run-in the other day. Oh, that ain't good.
What's my point?
Yes.
Max takes up a lot of space.
Well, duh. So, okay, I bored the crap out of you guys with that story. So, got to Key West and flew down there, lived there for a month and a half while,
You know what, Max? I'm going to start using you as an example every time my wife says, get your stuff out of the living room. Well, look at Max. He has 3 display cases in his living room.
Yes, Ken, but I don't keep my stuff piled up on the bed. They're in display cases.
It's not on the bed.
I've been in the...
So what happened to the car?
Okay, so I left the car at the Mesa Airlines had what was called an FMU, a field maintenance unit, in Jacksonville. And technically I still lived in Jacksonville. So I left the car at the FMU, where by the way my Oldsmobile was parked. Swapped cars, went back. Every time I went back, I would fly in from when I had days off in Key West. I'd fly into Jacksonville, which by the way was a 2-leg flight, either Tampa or Orlando, and then catch a commuter hop. That's back when Mesa and Piedmont and them just wired Florida with local flights. Oh, those are the glory days. But I would get in my car, I made it an airport car. Well, every time I got there, it needed maintenance. One time it wouldn't start. One time the brake was locked. Luckily, it was a field maintenance unit, which meant it was all mechanics, and every one of these guys was a gearhead as well as being an airplane mechanic. So they were always there to fix my car for me. God bless them, a great bunch of guys. I've generally found that the maintenance facilities, the mechanics, and everything are usually a really helpful, good bunch of guys. Those guys could just fix a rainy day. Anyway, Sarah Jane, you're back with us. Hello, everybody was missing you. Everybody, round of applause, Sarah Jane. Yay!
Yay!
So, but eventually I left it at a pawn shop and asked the guy to sell it, and he did. Yes, I bought it on a credit card and sold it at a pawn shop. So when I got rid of that crappy-ass Cutlass Sierra I had, I did the same thing. I put an Earl Scheib paint job on it because it had rust. Put it at the pawn shop, and he sold it for me also. The guy's name was Grady. And I was like, dude, you can sell anything at a pawn shop. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's a pawn shop. / car dealership sometimes. It was a different...
This sounds like a backwoods, southern tale.
Well, welcome to Florida, dude.
Whatever happened to that car that when I met you? The Civic?
Oh, that thing was a product of what basically boiled down to car abuse. I had that thing for 9 years. And when I got rid of it, and I traded it in on that Saturn SL2, and I got its trade value was $150, and the salesman looked at me and just said, dude, I'm giving you $300. But I had just milked the utility. 9 years of courier work, delivering pizzas. That's the car I drove from D.C. down to Florida when I moved back down. I went to college in it. The air conditioner died after about 3 years. They said that 3 or 4 years. They said the compressor went and the replacement cost us $800, which was the blue book value of the car.
Yeah.
Bought it off the lot, $8,600 new. It was a 1986 Honda Civic, the first one with the third tail light. And I went through about 4 clutches on that thing, which is the only real maintenance trouble I had with it. Except that when it got old, the electric box was letting moisture in, so it would, on one of these dew-ridden, humid Florida mornings, it wouldn't start. Have to go in, pull the main fuse for the starter of the ignition, dry it off, stick it back in, she'd fire right up. And God, I got almost a decade of, and that car qualified for battered car syndrome. The moonroof they put in it had leaked years ago, and the little metal parts had broken, which was too expensive to repair, so I just siliconed it shut. The inside panels were coming loose and everything. Oh my God, it was, but it ran, you know.
It did. These, by the way, for those of you who don't know, these are back in the days when Max was a starving flight instructor, and would often come over to my house, and I would feed him.
If he did more than one, that's one reason Ken and I are so tight. I help him bury a body or bail him out of jail. By the way, don't kill anybody and don't get in jail.
And it irritate the heck out of my kids.
They were the ones that kicked the back of my seat. Okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you kept picking on them.
Yeah, they're kids. That's what they're there for. Anyway, so
by the way, you're kind of fuzzy.
Well, Ken, that's because I didn't have my own kids to pick on. So
I think you're fuzzy. Your camera.
Yeah, that's the. It's if I back away from this thing and it gets a little dark and the camera gets confused. Cameras love light. Well, anywho, let's.
The crowd says pizza boxes can be auxiliary floorboards.
Yes, and not like that, they can be auxiliary brake pads once. One thing I know is you're going to old cars, you better have a buddy who's a mechanic or you better be a mechanic. But, it's funny, though. I just got some model car pictures for the Tamiya build sent to me today, and the guys did beautiful builds. And I look at these McLarens and all this other stuff, these high-performance cars, and I'm thinking, okay, the kind of person who owns a McLaren is not the kind of person who can keep a McLaren running.
Trey's wants to know what were we feeding you?
Usually casseroles. In fact, I remember Deb and I had a conversation about that because she had and she said, "Oh, it takes about $5." And I was like, "You guys are always feeding me." I appreciate. She goes, "Oh, this whole meal costs $5." And that's when I realized your wife is a genius at economizing.
Yeah, she's a really good cook, and she knows how to make inexpensive meals. That is true. There were some times that food was kind of short, and that was our only choice.
Well, I made sure you didn't have to worry about leftovers, but.
Oh no, there were no leftovers after you left. Nope. Well, that's okay because I didn't like leftovers anyway. So
I did it for you, buddy. I did it for you. Took the bullet.
We brought you over to finish the leftovers.
Yesterday I couldn't spell mechanic. Today I are one. Hey, dude, where's your K? You spelled mechanic without a K.
Here in America, manual trans is now an anti-theft device.
Well, that's like how do you keep. That's like the grandmother told her kids, "You can make all the long distance call you want." They all stared at the rotary dial phone with no idea how to use it. And
or it's also somebody who's had the change that works with their hands.
Yep. Well, I made sure to teach Aurora how to change a tire and stuff like that, and I think it was the YouTuber Bill Whittle, who was on PJTV. Now he's on Right Angle and some other stuff. He's a political pundit, but he also talks about history a lot. He's actually done a lot of stuff with the Daily Wire. Anyway, he had finally done through YouTube and his public speaking. He was finally making enough money to have a real life, and he bought a new car, which I think was a Camaro. Anyway, it had a problem with it, and he called the tow truck, and he was helping the tow truck driver get it up on the lift. And the tow truck driver was shocked. He goes, "You're the first person that's ever in California." He's in LA, Sherman Oaks. He goes, "You're the first person that's ever offered to help me." And he asked him, he goes, "What's your number one call?" He goes, "Oh, people running out of gas." "And what's your second most common call?" And he's like, "Flat tires." He goes, "Wait a minute, but they got a spare tire." He goes, "Yeah, nobody knows how to change a tire anymore. They call a tow truck for $150 because they don't know how to change a tire."
Well, in Europe, it's much harder to get your driver's license because you have to know how the car operates and how to do basic repairs if you get broken down on the side of the road, and you have to know how to change a tire.
Yep.
It takes much longer to get your driver's license, and there's many more steps in Europe because they just don't want you breaking down on the back side of the road and calling somebody up and saying, "What do I do?"
Yep.
I made my kids all
Max,
change
what
the tire.
is the face? Max is the face on Mars. Shh, it's a secret.
Hmm.
Yeah, I made sure all my kids could change a tire before I'd let them drive off by themselves.
Well, that's like the
That's
number
what-
one rule of when someone wants to learn to get a motorcycle, learn to ride it, and you teach them to ride it and everything. It's some of the class, but number one rule is never ride a motorcycle you cannot pick up if it lays down. So don't be getting a big dresser motorcycle if you can't hoist it up off the ground, because that's like
You would have dumped it.
yeah, and yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid. I mean, the rite of passage was you worked at the gas station on the corner where I lived,
Yeah.
and we had the AAA. So you would go, and it would be amazing how many spare tires we'd change or how many battery jumps we'd give because people didn't maintenance their battery terminals and
Sure.
they'd be full of corrosion.
Yep.
It was simple stuff, but people didn't do it.
Oh, raise your hand if your high school or college car you drove around on recaps. I don't even think they allow recaps anymore.
No, I never drove on recaps.
No, never drove on
My
recap.
mom used to get so mad because my dad was always getting his recaps. And I was okay, Mom, the car you got us will only do 40. That's how I got the Polara, my grandmother's hand-me-down. Had that Dodge whine in the transmission.
Hmm.
Hey, Steve, you got to tell the story about that one guy that you had to jump the car for.
Oh, the doctor? Yeah.
The doctor who was trying to
Tried to knock you down, tried to stiff you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was when we were off from school in the summer, we'd take time doing the AAA night calls. And one night I get a call, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I get, this doctor is down in garage number 2 in this place called Co-op City, which is in the Bronx. And he lost the keys, and you got to go down and start the car because there's an emergency. He's got to get to the hospital. And it's a $50 charge additionally. I'm like, okay. So I get dressed, I go down and get the truck and go down to the garage, and this guy's waving me over, and I said, "Are you Dr. whatever his name was?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Would you please sign the book that shows that we came so we get paid for the call?" He goes, "Sure." And I said, "You understand it's a $50 additional charge because you don't have the keys?" He says, "Yeah." So I make him identify himself. And I said, "Where's the car?" He goes, "It's one level up." He says, "I'll just walk up the stairs. You drive up and meet me there." He had a brand new 68 Chrysler 300 convertible. And this is before they had the column lock with the keys. It was on the dashboard. So I walk over to the car and I open the hood and I put a wire around the positive side of the battery. I put it around the coil. I stick a screwdriver across the starter. The car starts up. So he goes, "Okay." He goes, "I got to go." I said, "Well, you have to give me the $50. He's like, "Well, I've been a member for years and they can bill me." And I was like, No. I said, "I have to go back with $50. No, they can, no, I shouldn't have to pay him. I said, "Okay, fine." So I go over and pull the wire off the car dies. So now the guy says, wait a minute, you're supposed to help me." I said, "I did. You didn't want to pay the $50 and I'm going back." Now the real story comes out. He's down there doing his best with one of the nurses from the hospital in her apartment. His wife calls up looking for him. His buddy gets the phone call and she says, "I'm on my way down there, and if he's not there when I get there, I'm throwing everything he has out on the lawn. I'm going to take him for every dime he's got." So he says, "Well, you got to help me." I said, "Well, I did. You didn't want to pay the $50. He goes, all right. He goes, I'll give you the $50. I was like, "No." I said, "Now it's 100. And he says to me, "What do you mean?" I said, "I have to do it twice." And so he looks at me. I stick my hand out, and he begrudgingly counts out 5 20s. And I have 5 20s in my hand, and I look at him, and I look at the 5 20s, and I look at him, and he goes, "What?" I was like, "No tip?" He reaches in his pocket and he gives me another $20. I put the money in my pocket and I go over to the car. And he's, come on, you got to get this done. I got to get out of here. It was easy. It shouldn't take this long. Yada, 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 yada. And I said, you know what? It's easy. So I tossed him the wire. I said, you figure it out. I got in the truck. I left. So now I'm driving back to that. I said, maybe I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this. Okay. So I parked the truck. I go back home. I go to sleep. The station opens at 6. I get up at like 10 to 6. I go down and I get the owner, whose name was Rich. And I said, Rich, I said, I got to tell you something happened last night. So I tell him what happened. And he looks, I put the money on the table. He looks at me and he goes, tell me this again. So I told him the whole story again. And he looks at me and he picks the money up and he goes, screw him. Here, keep the money. I was like, okay, thanks.
Guy brought it on himself. People bring a lot of their own,
Yeah, he was just being, I mean, all he would have had to do was just pay me, which he had an understanding that he had to do, and he would have went his own merry way, and everything would have been fine.
Yeah, there's always.
Why he didn't call a cab in the first place, I'll never know.
I finally watched that movie War Dogs.
Okay.
And I was shocked at the behavior of the one character. I kept trying to screw everybody out of money. And I looked him up on Wikipedia, and I went and watched an interview with actually one of the characters. Apparently he was just that bad. Always looking for a way to screw people out of their... I mean, just could not help himself. And I thought to myself...
A lot of people like that.
Well, I can't think of myself. I wonder if working with Abe Shikes was like that.
Abe was from the guys I know who worked. I worked with a couple of guys at Matchbox who came over there after Aurora kind of sort of imploded.
Mm-hmm.
And Abe was a tough taskmaster. He was kind of gruff, but that's the way he was. And I know that him and Gia Marino and they all didn't get along.
Yeah,
because there was a constant power struggle there, and that was a pretty volatile situation.
Well, apparently what eventually unwound these guys was they owed the Russians or Ukrainians like $100,000 for all the labor for repackaging all the ammunition that they bought that was going to the Afghans, and he screwed the guy, didn't pay him, right? And the guy kept calling, look, I got to get these people paid. And he found out that the guy had set the deal up, was making they were paying him 10 cents a round, but that guy was paying him 2.5 cents a round. He's kind of like, so it's markup. And his partner's like, so what? That's business. No, he screwed. I'm going to screw him back. Don't you dare, because he's in a position to really trip us up. Well, they never paid the guy who was physically doing the labor, and he had a bunch of people working for him that wanted to get paid. So he's the one that called the American government and told them, hey, they're repackaging illegal Chinese ammo. They were in position to make $300 million. They wound up getting 4 years in prison because they could not. I was like, I have no sympathy for him, but I'm like, and I hate to say it, but when I looked at a picture of the real character, it was like he looked like a moron, like the kind of idiot who would do something like that. And for God forgive me, I wonder if it was like that working with Abe. But I don't think Abe was that bad. I mean, this guy literally didn't want to pay what he owed people. So anyway,
Abe was a tough guy to work for, but Abe knew how should I put it? He knew where the gray areas were.
Well, it's one thing to be a demanding boss. It's another thing to just want to screw people because you're a greedy moron.
I mean, all the guys that worked there, they enjoyed working there.
Yeah.
Andy
said that when he left, it wasn't the place it used to be, though.
No, because that's when Diker took over.
Yeah, and
Diker wanted to make it, the IBM of the model kit business, and and he wanted to make it more of a toy company.
Well, I was going to say he didn't really want to be in the model business. He wanted to be in the game. He actually wanted to be in the game industry and toy and game.
Which gaming is really rough because
they got lucky with Skittle Bowl.
They did, and then they expanded on the line, and the rest of the stuff didn't do as well as Skittle Bowl.
Because Welcome to the post-styrene model part of the show.
No, we're
There you
getting
go.
back to styrene because here we go. We're going to talk about the model I'm working on right now. Hold on, let me fit the screen. This is the Focke-Wulf 190 from Monogram that Eric sent me from Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. And a lot of people said make it as a captured one, put American markings on it, which I might do. But the paint job I'm putting on it is inspired by what's on the box art, but it's not a direct copy of it. But one thing is that it has a lot of yellow. And I had learned this a while back, and this is my second experiment. It shows it. If you have pink primer, the yellow works a lot better over pink primer than it does over gray primer. It just pops a lot better. And you'll see here in the next photograph that it's, there we go. You can see the yellow looks really good. And that's only a couple of coats. So, the issue I wanted to bring up wasn't about this particular kit. It's more about the kits that you put a lot of effort into as opposed to those you have a little bit more fun with. Which, by the way, the landing gear on this thing's actually kind of tricky because you have to put those support arm struts in to get the landing gear to sit and get them to line up and everything. It was a little trickier than I expected because it doesn't have a hole for you to put in. You just have to sort of guesstimate where it's supposed to go. But that aside, it's a Monogram kit. I swear to God, you could hand me any 1/48 scale Monogram World War II fighter plane. I can tell you what it is just from having built so many of them. I don't even have to take a close look at it. There's little landing gear struts. But I also found out I had the headrest in the wrong place when I tried to put the clear canopy on. The headrest was up too high. You have to set that bar on the headrest down on that bar. That was me. You know, it's like, oh, okay. I had put the bottom of the headrest on the bar, not that bar. But there's little struts in place. That's hardening overnight. But the thing I wanted to ask is when do you decide that this is a kit that I'm going to spend a lot of time hyper detailing versus a kit that I'm just going to kind of quote unquote enjoy the build and be a little more relaxed with it, not worry about hyper detailing? Okay.
Depends on you.
Well, that's
Yeah,
true. But I'm asking you what is for you. You know, I hand you a Eagle Moss or a Tamiya. I imagine you're going to put every nut and rivet and go into detail. Well, what kind of kit do you get and go, you know what? I'm just going to sort of put a bait, just enjoy this and have a little fun with it.
None of them.
You take them all
Yeah,
seriously. So, like,
Yeah,
every
if I'm going to build them, I want it to be, like perfect.
Well, enough of you.
Otherwise, why do it? I
don't know. Some kits I just get very relaxed about. I don't sweat the little stuff, and others I sweat every rivet.
Hmm.
And I think it has a lot. I think it has a lot to do with. Well, as JM Chladdick said, it depends on whether the kit specifically needs the hyper detailing.
Well, Trey just said, he says, I know that before I buy the kit, how much work I'm going to put into it.
Okay. Yeah.
And Lemur Crazy, it depends on the quality of the kit.
Yeah.
If it's, like you said, if it's a Tamiya or a Hasegawa kit, you're like, okay, it's going to be a little bit better than, some of the other brands out there.
Well, when I built that Atlantis Starlifter, I knew just looking at the quality of parts and everything, there were going to be big gaps and all this other stuff. It's going to take a lot of work. And I did, sand it all down. The seams covered and everything, but I wasn't going to worry about spending an entire day just trying to get the wing to be perfectly flush with the fuselage because I knew it was still going to just be a very basic kit. So
yeah, but it looked good when you were done because you did put in some effort into it.
It looked good enough. The Starfix kits. Those are the only kits I can ever remember that I had no trouble melting down, like to battle damage them right out of the box. I was like, yep, I'll drill bullet holes in it, melt the wingtip, shove it in Godzilla's mouth. I had no problem with that.
Well, it's like you said, make it what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the Monogram kit, part of me was kind of like I want to build it like I did when I was a kid for nostalgia, but I almost never had any paint, and I didn't want to do that crappy a job. So I dragged out the airbrushes and everything. But I looked at it after a while. I was like, okay, this doesn't look right. So I started touching it up, and I was like, okay, now it's going to look the paint jobs to the point where it will look okay on the shelf. It won't stand up to close scrutiny, but it will look like sitting on the shelf. It's going to look fine, and I'm really got to be honest with you. Anytime you have to drag out the airbrush and start spraying, have a good time. But it's
Well, you got to remember when we started building these things, it was how many glue fingerprints could you not put on it?
this is true, and I definitely think
Yeah.
I'm beyond that standard.
And then when you painted it, you painted it with a brush and a bottle of Tester's enamel.
Yes,
If you could afford it.
You weren't spraying it, because it was 10 cents a bottle back then. And then you progressed and you tried out spray cans and, you got a little bit better technique. The kits got more expensive, so you were a little more careful. And then you turned around and you got an airbrush and you got a compressor. It's a whole progression.
yeah, it is. And I found out after I had been working on this thing that I probably over-thinned some of the paints. I had to go back over it, and then I had to correct it with the other color. But I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with this thing because there's, and that's a two-tone green on purpose. I wanted to have the two-tone green, and you can see where I kind of went a little south with a couple of them, so I covered that up later with some more of the light blue. And but anytime I get to
Hey, Mac. Sir Jane brings up an interesting point.
so,
He says, if you enjoy the build, then the kid has done its job.
this is true. That I absolutely agree with that. And but I'm still torn whether I want to put it in strictly German markings or, like a lot of people said, go ahead and slap some captured American markings. What I would do is, like the Americans did, I'd put the German markings on and put the American markings over it. And but I have really enjoyed building this thing just for nostalgia's sake. And
Well, one of the things I like that bow mark that I did when I had a kit like that before I tried. Well, I had a kit after I tried to make the wooden one, and it didn't turn out very well. I didn't paint it, and so when I saw that kit, when you got that kit, and I wanted to build it, it's like, okay, I want to take the skills that I have now and apply them to make the models so much better than I could have when I tried it the first time.
Yep. One of the problems that I still have a little trouble with, and it may be the airbrush I'm using, is that, or I should say misusing, is that the feathered edges are I've been using like Aztec and stuff, and but the thing is, I'm using rattle can. But even when I use the airbrush, you still get a little bit of speckle if the paint isn't mixed just perfect and the pressure isn't just right. And that can still be a little tricky to get a proper feathered edge. And if you don't have that on a World War II camouflage pattern, or actually most camouflage patterns, it's like, yeah, that's not going to fly. And
It also determines how long it takes you to do it.
But you can see in this
longer it takes you
picture
to-
that the speckling did not go well. This has been cleaned up since then, by the way. And there's a lot of techniques on it, and it could just be the airbrush. But I'm downing the pressure and everything, but I may be over thinning the paint, so it's splattering too much. It's a little hard to say. It's really tricky to get a nice feathered edge.
Oh, hey, Fast Sports is here.
Hey, John. We still
Welcome
need to do
back.
that Zoom meeting.
We ought to get him in on here sometime.
Actually, I was when he and I talked, I was going to ask him if he wants to join us. Hey, how you doing? So, but Saturday nights when he takes his family out and stuff. But absolutely, we need to have him on because you and Steve, you and John could go at it with the cars. And
Oh yeah.
and he's used to, one of the things I want to ask him about, have him talk to us about, because he does a lot of he and his daughter sell resin stuff. I don't know, is your daughter still selling the resin components? So I tell you what, John, we need to go ahead and have that Zoom call this week sometime if you're free, and we'll work something. We were supposed to get together as Zoom, but he wasn't able to get back in time. No biggie. But sponge dry brushing makes acceptable splotches. I'll have to get the proper kind of. Actually, I might have just the sponge to do that. Dry brush oil paint sometimes helps soften the lines. I haven't tried that one. Oil paints, huh? You guys need to do some videos on that. I actually need to watch some videos. I'm one of those guys that believes you're supposed to be able to make the feathered edge with the airbrush, and I see guys do that, and they do beautiful work. And sometimes I get it right, but if the mix is just the slightest bit wrong or the pressure's a little off, you get splatter, and that just ruins it. And then when you try to mask it off or use the rounded edge Play-Doh, and you go over it, it winds up sometimes making too fine a line.
Christopher Jordan says, what type of paint are you using and what pressure?
Usually Tamiya acrylics mixed about 60-40 at about 12 psi. Well, John, I'm not going to have a live stream next weekend because I'm going to be gone, but maybe the one after that we can have you on board. We'll get together and talk about it because I'd love to have
hear that, Ken? We got a week off.
And also at some point, Ken and I have to get together and do the boat build on the boat.
Yes, got to do that.
It's amazing how the weeks done a Sequoia build. Okay, I'll go check it out, Trey. It's I can't. You realize this is live stream 210. I mean, I can't believe how fast the weeks are clipping by. I wonder if that something happens as you get a little older and time just starts to speed up on you.
Yeah, I've noticed that. The older I get, the faster time goes.
Well,
especially when you don't have a work schedule to synchronize.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. And not that I missed all the crap that went along with that. I do miss the people. I miss a few of the overnights, and I miss the flying, but sometimes. But just the other day, I was watching some crappy weather, and yeah, some idiot's flying in this stuff, you know. Glad it ain't me.
Okay.
Glad it ain't me.
Every time I watch Mentor Pilot or Blanco Lirio, I'm like, yep, that's it. I'm done with aviation.
Well, when you get the itch to fly something, you can get back into RC. It's a lot safer.
Not for the people standing around me.
We do tend to clear the field when you show up.
I do need to. Oh, okay, Slugo. Well, thanks for coming out and spending some evening with us. Create your own schedule, and time will slow down. I cannot believe how much stuff keeps filling up. You know, like, oh, I'm retired. I got all this time, and unfortunately, everybody you know knows it. And I'm like, oh, Gates, you can help me with this. You should drink on the boat and build a ship on a bottle. I'll meet you halfway. I'll build the ship while drinking from a bottle. How about that?
Ken, make sure you rock the boat while he's building.
Oh, that's my job. Ken has me run around the deck so the boat will rock back and forth.
Yeah, at least about 15 degrees.
I quit whining. It's funny, though. I was just, my brother-in-law and I were just at the marina here in Jacksonville yesterday just watching the sunset here in Jacksonville. And I sent Ken a picture, which, by the way, apparently I didn't send until today. I took it and sent it, but I never actually hit the send button. That's why you got it so late. But I was sitting there talking to Jose about the boats, and I was kind of like, you know, he asked, can you make Ken a model of his boat? And I was like, nah, the exact model. And I said, look at all these boats. And there's like 100 boats in there. No two of them are identical. I don't know how many people are out there making boats, but it's like gazillions of different versions. And I was saying how big of an industry, and a couple of them were like brown on the bottom. See that crap building on the bottom of them? Somebody went all the trouble to buy a sailboat, and they let that happen to it.
Yeah, those are the ones that tend to sit there with nobody taking care of them. Unfortunately, it's a sad thing to see.
How do you keep the barnacles off your boat?
I have a guy that scrapes them off for me.
And apparently on a sailboat, crap on the bottom of the hull can really impact the performance.
Yeah.
20 to 25 PS. Really? See, everything I saw, they said 14 to 15, maybe 12 pounds of PSI. I'll give 25 a try and see how it works.
One time I was taking the boat out and we were going over to the fuel dock to fill up first. And I couldn't get the engine to go above 1,800 RPM, no matter how far I moved the throttle up. So we got over to the fuel dock, and I asked the lady there, what she thought, because, she owns a boat too. She says, might be a fuel problem. And she said, there's a guy that lives here in the marina. He works on people's boats. Maybe he could help you out. Just right then, he went on by, and we waved him down. He came over, and I told him what the problem was. And from his dinghy, he could see my propeller, and he says, there's a whole bunch of stuff growing down there. I think that's probably what your problem is.
Yeah.
So he got his wetsuit on and went down there and scraped the prop off him. What a huge difference that made.
The question was put to you, Ken. You're on a boat, Ginger or Marianne? I'm Team Marianne.
Yeah, because Ginger's too high maintenance.
I always like brunettes anyway. Being a blonde, I'm not that impressed by it. I have a one-liner that I will spare you guys.
30 PSI? Wow.
Okay, now
they're just
screwing with me. This is how you get the old paint off.
So you blow a hole through the kit.
Yeah, maybe. Paul and Trey are both Ginger fans.
Trey, Ginger, Team Ginger.
Team Ginger. Okay, well, I'm Team Marianne.
Now, Ginger's useless on the boat. You want a Marianne.
Well, maybe not, Ken.
Hey, it's Marianne that can make the coconut cream pies, so, what can I say? Well, guys, the live stream is definitely officially over now. We're just rambling at this point for a few more minutes.
Ginger would be woke today.
Oh, let's don't even go there, but probably. Hey, working on Hollywood, Bread's Marianne.
You'd be surprised, Brian, just how similar boats and airplanes are.
Bailey. Absolutely Bailey.
The sail is actually a vertical wing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, quite a few pilots also sail, too, because there's so many similarities between the two. Believe it or not. Even though one's in the water and one's in the air, there's still a lot of similarities.
What a lot of people don't realize is, although having the wind to your back definitely speeds things up, but you can still tack into the wind because the low pressure on the front of the sail will still pull you forward, even at a much slower rate.
Absolutely.
The same reason we have the winglets on the jets. You have the winglets on the wingtips. Those things are canted forward. They work like sails. They create a low pressure in front that helps pull the airplane along, and they save like 0.015% of the fuel. But you add that up over the 1,000 hours of your jet flies, that adds up to a lot of money.
Fast Board says Ginger would be best at siphoning fuel.
We're not going there. I have not had enough go water to get into those comments. Fran, thanks for joining us, man. We'll talk to you later.
Do you raise your boat every week or monthly? No, the boat. The last time the boat was out of the water was when I did a survey on it when I bought it. And it's been in the water for over 2 years. I
really have a vicious one-liner, but I'm keeping it to myself, and I don't know why it's against my normal,
Don't explode on us, please.
Nobody else answered the Bailey versus Jennifer.
I'm not familiar. Who's the Bailey?
Bailey Quarters from WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. Versus
I'm Team Bailey. versus Jennifer, the receptionist, Lonnie
Yeah.
Anderson.
Yeah, but I mean, don't get me wrong. Lonnie Anderson definitely had the edge on the beauty side, but Bailey would be much easier to live with. Depends on what you're looking for, a night or a life. You know,
Well, Bailey was cute.
she was. Um,
And Stuart says some people might go for Gilligan.
yeah, well, to each their own. Bailey forever.
Articles. I have a guy who does that for me.
Some of the generation, you say Bailey, I think Beetle Bailey. I'm like, dude, I don't want to know what goes on in that barracks.
Guys, on a different subject.
Yeah. Yeah, Mary Ann, because she wore the Daisy Dukes before Daisy Duke.
Now, that's a good point, actually.
What?
That why don't they call the shorts Mary Ann's as opposed to,
true.
You know,
she was what, Miss Nevada, 1961.
Yes, she was.
Trace says, Lonnie hair too short. Might cut me.
Well, certainly cut Bert.
Herb Tarlick was.
Herb Tarlick, yeah.
Unfortunately, I could never pick clothes, and being a single man, even in my 20s, my mom often would buy me suits. And I went to a thing, and Mom bought me like maroon pants. And anyway, my buddy Bill looked at me and just goes, "Hey, Herb Tarlick, what's up?" I think I need to hear that before I go into a. Which janitor are we talking? Okay, so that brings up the question: which one of the Robinson girls? And I think everybody's going to go with
John says WKRP Bailey was the one to choose. I worked with too many Jennifers.
There you go. Rob says Bailey, Marianne, and Janet.
Not sure which Janet he's referring to.
I think he means from Three's Company.
Oh, okay.
Choose the dark-haired one.
Okay, Chris, I got it. And oh, that looks good. Look at the Focke-Wulf 190. He's got nice speckling on that paint job. Ooh, I have a delivery from the post office. So, Chris clearly knows what he's talking about.
Tarzan or Jane. There you go.
We're a little too far off the trail here, guy.
Well, okay. So Lost in Space. Which one of the Robinson girls? And I think everybody's going to pick the older one.
Judy.
Yeah. Well, the other one is Samantha or Jeannie, and I'm a Jeannie guy. Ironically, on this particular one, but most people seem to like Samantha better. So.
No, I go with Jeannie.
No, she was too weird.
Who, Jeannie?
No. Elizabeth.
Samantha.
Yeah, Amanda, yeah.
Samantha.
Besides, she had a mother-in-law that was a real...
Yeah, talk about the mother-in-law from hell.
Yeah.
Oh, Marcia. It's always about Marcia. Marcia. It's always about Marcia.
Which one of the Brady girls? How did we get onto this?
I don't know.
Ha! Fast forward. If you're on an island, you want Mary Ann and Bailey. If your boat is sinking, you want to grab a Jennifer.
There you go. That'd work.
Judy. Yeah. Oh, Victoria Principal Dallas. Yeah.
Did I ever have a thing for her when she was on?
Yeah,
she was the main reason I watched that show.
Yeah, you and 80 million other guys.
Oh, definitely Catwoman. No Batgirl. Catwoman.
I am so biting my lip right now.
Oh, go ahead. Let it out.
He's going to explode.
Not. This is a family channel.
There are about 3 or 4 things he's said tonight that he's not going to say.
Yeah, so, I tell you what. Oh God, really?
I think the top blows off at 5.
All I'm thinking is, did we ever have a fight between Batgirl and Catwoman?
No.
Is that a cat fight or a bat fight?
Yes. That should be that would be on pay-per-view.
And now for something completely different.
Marquee Post from Night Courts.
Yes,
Super, yes,
Marquee Post,
absolutely.
definitely. Yep.
And,
Never watched that show.
turns out, I was a girl from the Fall Guy or T.J. Hooker. I think it was a girl from the Fall Guy. Lost her job after a couple of seasons because apparently she earned all that money. She went right up her nose or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
And bat fight or cat fight. There you go. Yeah.
How is
Cat
any of
fight.
it related to models?
Oh,
They're models. That's why.
They are
models.
supermodels. There is a Max's Models in Germany that is like a modeling concern that, and I get their emails
Electra
from time to
Woman
time.
and Dyna Girl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
As I get older, Electra Woman's just looking better and better. God, I remember seeing that as a kid. I was kind of like, really? I mean, I'm 12 years old and I know how bad this is, but I'll watch it.
I was like, wait, kid, I was like 20 and I got up to watch it on Saturday morning.
Guys, it's 9 o'clock.
9
I
o'clock.
finish this on a high.
Yeah.
This is degrading rapidly.
Yeah. That's it, guys. We're gonna go nighty night. I want to thank everybody coming out and spending some time with us, guys.
Which Catwoman? The only Catwoman,
Julie Newmar. Well, I don't know. Eartha Kitt was pretty,
Nah. And Mrs. Peel, absolutely.
Yeah. Most guys
time to
had
go.
that one. Alrighty. Well, guys, we're gonna bug out now. It's time to go nighty night, and well, did you guys say goodnight? First off, I want to thank everybody for coming out and spending some time with us. I do appreciate it. And sorry we went off the rails a little early. Sorry, not sorry. And Ken, Steve, let's say your nights and we'll be on our way.
Okay. Thanks for showing up, guys. We all appreciate it. It's always good to sit here and talk and listen to what you guys have to say. It's makes it for a really interesting evening. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming out and participating, guys. Sometimes it always doesn't state a topic, but that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, this is all just a big gab session.
Look forward to seeing you guys back on the channel in 2 weeks.
Guys, again, see you 2 weeks from now. Thanks for coming out. John, I'll pop you off an email here in a minute. And guys, take care of yourselves. And as always, model on.